Let's see if Philip Kiszely can do the same, senior fellow at the New Culture Forum. Hi, Philip, how are you?
Oh, hi, Alex. How are you? What a day, eh?
I feel like the weather, if I'm honest. I feel everything... Do you know, doing this blimmin' job, it just makes you feel miserable because you have to talk about the news and it's never good. It's never good.
It really isn't, and today has just been just one of those days. It feels like the whole country's grinding to a halt. The whole system's grinding to a halt. You've got you've got Keir Starmer, like literally back against the wall. He's a dead man walking. And just as I was talking about that and reading about it before, there's some horrible violent incident in a school in Wales, and it just feels like, yeah, this is Starmer's Britain. This is what happens. This is what we're lumbered with. It's pouring down. It's grey. It's miserable. And it feels like the sooner he's gone, the better. But I'm with you, actually. What you just said before really chimed with me. What have we got to look forward to? We've got an interim Prime Minister, David Lammy.
Don't. No, Philip, I wanted cheering up. Come on, it's not funny. Funny.
We've got to go through the pain first, and then we'll have some fun later.
David Lammy, Prime Minister. There are no words for that. I mean, Angela Rayner's better.
Well, the thing is, you get David Lammy, and he's going to kind of somehow accidentally sell the country or something.
I won't be paying slavery reparations if he's Prime Minister. May as well just, empty my pockets, my bank account, sell my house, and, start making a brazier underneath the nearest motorway bridge right now. It's
only 19 billion. It's only 19 billion. And then we've got it's 19 trillion, isn't it? Sorry, not 19 billion. That'd be.
Yeah, I was going to say 19 billion. That's less than restoring the Houses of Parliament. That's a steal.
Exactly. Yeah, and it would probably take less than 60 years. But after David Lammy, then you've got the devastatingly limited person, which is Angela Rayner.
Devastatingly limited. What a perfect way of putting it.
She cannot string a sentence together. She's semi-literate, and we're from the same place. We're both from Manchester, and so people think, oh, well, that's working class. No, it's not. It really isn't.
I hate this sort of way that people sort of go, well, she's really bright. You're just being a snob because she's working class, and I'm like, no, she's just an idiot.
Yeah.
She's embarrassingly idiotic. She's cartoonish, I'm technically, I suppose, in the working classes, whatever that means. But it doesn't mean you have to speak like an absolute buffoon. And like I said, there's one thing, her domestic agenda would be radical. Because, I'm moaning about Sir Keir Starmer having these sort of shadowy, sordid puppet masters who, frankly, I don't think anybody has really dug down into them, what their intentions are, how much power they wield, whether there's conflicts of interest, because some of them scare the living bejesus out of me. But, Starmer might be the puppet of some pretty dark, radical barristers. But she's the puppet of the unions, who are frankly short-fringed, blue-haired, screaming psychopaths.
Yeah, it feels as though, the definition of a socialist is doing the wrong thing over and over and over again and not learning by your mistakes, which is also the definition of insanity as well, actually. So what you have there is you've got the unions, but also you've got these middle-class, blue-haired lunatics screaming for gender rights and race this and sexuality that and all the rest of it. And the problem is that the Labour Party always has done. They've always allowed these middle-class idiots, coupled with the lunatics in the unions, to call the beat, to really push the agenda. And that has been catastrophic for the country year upon year upon year. It was devastating in the 1970s, right? So we had the winter of discontent, 1978 to 1979, really, really awful. And then we thought we'd have a new start and we'd move forward with Margaret Thatcher, which we did. The problem now is that many people, especially young people, blue-haired people, they don't remember the 1970s because they weren't there. And this is why socialism comes back to haunt us time and time again, because we don't learn the lessons of history, mainly because some people don't want to, but mostly because people don't forget just how awful it is, how awful it would be having an Angela Rayner, and they're all the same.
Well, you know,
and Angela Rayner rule over us.
This is the result of infantilizing people until they're, you know, God knows how old. Everyone's sort of treated like a baby these days, and so they want baby politics. They want childish politics. Be kind. No, I mean, you know, it is... everything's become so banal, so watered down, so oversimplistic, so inverted. And when you see you've got grown-up adults cheering on the idea of Angela Rayner as Prime Minister, I'm like, OK, they need full frontal lobotomies. For the purpose of balance, shall we hear Sir Keir Starmer defending himself and basically pointing every single finger of blame available to him at everybody but in the reverse direction? Let's have a look.
To learn that there was a cabinet minister leaking sensitive information at the height of the response to the 2008 crash is beyond infuriating. And I am as angry as the public and any member of this House. Mandelson betrayed our country, our Parliament and my party.
That's your lot. Those are your masters, Sir Keir. You know, the people who told you, if you're saying, oh, well, people told me to employ him and he turns out like he's a wrong un, OK, who are these people who told you to employ him? Should we be flushing them out? Right? Should we be asking questions of them as well? Because it seems to me the entire backroom of that political party have ill intent. I just think that we, sadly, have let in either a bunch of actually, I think most of the people who are actually elected are a bunch of incompetents. But like I said, I think there's some extremely sinister, shadowy figures in the background running things, and we're not asking questions about them. And I actually think, you know, Nigel Farage has turned around and says the Lord Mandelson controversy is the biggest scandal in British politics for over 100 years. And I think on that matter, he is fairly accurate. You know, this is a man who potentially was working as a double agent to the hostile regimes right at the heart of government as Deputy Prime Minister. You know, multiple lives like a Rasputin popping back up out of the cracks in the woodwork to haunt us once again with his menacing ways. But like I said, that might be the case. I want to know about these other people. Why are we not asking questions about them?
Yeah, I mean, this is classic deep state stuff, isn't it? You know, and it's one of those things where you desperately want to dig down and find out just what the hell's going on. But as the Epstein letters have shown us, you know, the more you dig down, the more you realize just how not only sinister this kind of stuff is, this kind of dark power, this kind of, you know, tentacles power type stuff. It's also incredibly frightening and dangerous as well. But I was just looking at the footage there and looking at the nodding dogs behind Starmer while he was making his excuses. I mean, he came out today and blamed the security services, didn't he? Now, that is utter desperation. One thing politicians shouldn't do is blame the security services because they can't speak back. You know, they just have to stay silent. So when a politician does that, you know, one, that they're probably lying, and two, that they are utterly desperate. But just look. But sorry, just to make the point, Alex, I think it's a really important point, this. Looking at those politicians there, oh, they're all outraged by Mandelson, they're all outraged by child abuse and corruption. Really? They weren't that outraged when Starmer and co refused or dragged their heels to have a national inquiry about the Pakistani rape gangs in northern towns. They weren't outraged then, were they? No, this is political. This is about, they are vultures vultures circling. They see opportunities for themselves, or they're trying to kind of defend themselves, and it's all about them. And it really is sickening to look at them, because all you have to do, you don't have to go far back in time. All you need is a little bit of context that is just a few months ago, and you see what liars, what charlatans these people are. And yes, how the hell did they get to represent us?
More than anything, I think the most insulting thing about the majority of the cabinet is they're just embarrassingly low grade. Yeah. They're just really embarrassingly low grade. In the real world, I can't think of any of them who have made it to, who would have made it to a senior position in business, even in the public sector. I don't think any of them would have had six-figure salaries if they lived in the real world, and that they've ended up running our country. I mean, they could barely manage a local library, half of them. They are so appallingly, wincingly, skin-crawlingly abysmal that it just reflects so badly on Britain. You know, it's interesting, it's something happening in the left wing in general, because you look at the Democrats over in America, and they seem to have the same problem, that when it came to presidential candidates, one man was basically already in the morgue, and the thing they rolled out as the alternative was, I don't even know what that was. That screeching, ludicrous, idiotic woman with that awful, piercing laugh. And you think, you've got a population of 300 million people, and this is all you've got to offer as your candidate. And I look at the Labour Party and I think, you know, love them or loathe them, Gordon Brown was a highly intelligent, serious man. Tony Blair was a highly intelligent, serious man. Okay, I don't care for their politics, but they were proper politicians. You know, they had gone to the top universities. They were highly intelligent people. They knew how to do the job. They were perfectly viable statesmen. You didn't look at them at a G7 and think, gosh, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Like you would do if Angela Rayner rolled up in a sort of like, you know, flamenco-coloured ASOS suit. But you look at the current Labour Party and it's a joke. It's like a pantomime. The only one who I think has got any degree of credibility, who I'd say, do you know what, if just one of them was left, get rid of all of them. If I could pick the one to replace Starmer, it'd be, is it Dan Jarvis, the guy who's ex-military? He's actually the only one I think looks like a credible human being.
And I'm surprised he's there. You know, I mean, that just sums it all up for me. I think one of the real problems for me, listening to Keir Starmer and listening to any other member of the cabinet, is that they have practically zero political nous. You know, no kind of instinct about what they should do, what they should say. And they cannot kind of read situations or gauge situations. I know Kev was just saying before that, okay, he's speaking a bit more like a human being now, and I agree with that. But by God, it's a bit late. He should have been speaking like a human being before, you know. The problem is he's a human rights lawyer. And the problem is these are middle management types in the public sector, and they are all captured. They all live in a bubble. It's all nonsense. They don't deal with the real life. And part of the problem is it's another story that we might come on to today, but people have no targets. There's no sense of, you know, this is what you should achieve in this job. This is what you should be doing. There's none of that. You just roll on from year to year to year to being totally incompetent. And these people who really came to the fore during COVID, during lockdown, and really started dominating the culture, we see them in the Labour Party, we see them in the cabinet, and it's this awful layer of mediocrity and silliness that we need to peel away. And it needs to be, our politicians need to be like our business people who work for themselves, work for companies. You actually need to demonstrate success. You need to get things done. Forget ideology, forget concepts, forget theories. We don't care. We want Britain, good ship Britain, to sail. We want our children to be healthy. We want them to be well educated. One of the problems you were talking about before is that people don't know anything. People aren't well educated. It's just this thing, isn't it? Of, you know, oh, be kind.
I think it goes more than that. It's not just people aren't well educated. People aren't well. They're not well in the head. Some sort of insanity has gripped most of the nation. And, you know, I've been in politics for a long time, in this country and abroad, and I'll tell you what I know, which is you got the front line, the faces you see on the television, doing the media rounds, who sit in cabinet. You've always got above them people whose name you'd never have heard of, who actually wield all the power and all the control. There is always the big influencers behind the throne. Believe you me, there's not many political parties and not many governments in the entire world that does not have secretive operatives in the shadows actually making some of the biggest calls. And with this lot, because they're incompetent nincompoops, they're far easier to control, which is why I want to know. I want to ask questions. Because whether it's this government or the previous government, it's the same organisations that keep popping up in the form of barristers' chambers, think tanks. And I want to know what's going on with them, because clearly some of them have extremely injurious, radical, left-wing, communist ideas, which will bring great harm unto this nation, which is already bringing great harm unto this nation. And we're not asking those questions. And yet when the Conservatives are in power, we hear everything about every donor. Someone's provided money for gold wallpaper. Someone's done this. Someone was at a dinner where there was sort of like, you know, tarty waitresses walking around in short skirts, whatever. You know, the legacy media were tripping over themselves to dig up dirt on anybody, people you've never even heard of. Right now, the key figures who actually do, it seems to me, hold the strings are in plain sight, and no one's doing anything about it. And what we've learned, if there's one lesson we need to learn from this whole Mandelson scandal, is it is time to start asking questions, and fast, because this lot really are driving us to hell in a handcart, and it scares me.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of us have been saying this for quite a long time. It isn't just about the government, and it isn't just about changing the government. It's what goes on beneath. And that isn't just the civil service. As you were saying that, and a very eloquent kind of a blast of common sense there, I was thinking about, actually, this goes right back to the Blair government, doesn't it? This is about quangos, but it's more than that. It's about, I keep coming back to lawyers, human rights lawyers. It's about lawfare. It's about controlling people. It's about, you know, they always talk about transparency, don't they? And you mentioned think tanks before, and if they're, you know, and if they're attacking think tanks on the right, they always say, well, where's your funding and all the rest of it. Yeah. They are so hypocritical. And one of the real problems we have in this country, we are suffering, this class of people, we are suffering from a kind of terminal hypocrisy, and we really need to remove them. We really need to get rid of this network which just holds everybody back. It holds politics back, but it holds business back. It stops us looking after ourselves. It keeps the borders open. They are obsessed with ideology. No one cares. People do not care about ideology. People want to be safe. They want a country that works. They want a reasonable amount of wealth, and they want to enjoy themselves. Yeah. And they want something to hand on to their children, Alex. That's a key thing. And it feels at the moment as though that's not going to happen.
No, it depresses me more than anything. You know, I'm barely halfway through my life, if I've got a decent enough lifespan, and I'm looking at my own future going, it's really dismal. And that actually is very depressing.